be about a good height, I can imagine. Yeah. Happy days. Well, good evening. Am I actually live yet? Yeah, I think I've literally just gone live. So, good evening. Welcome to another live stream. And today we're going to be talking about the time I stayed in a haunted house. So again, this goes back to a poll which I put out quite recently of what should we talk about? Should we talk about something martial arts related, or should we talk about something geopolitical? And I think because like the last time we actually did quite a few non-martial arts related, the vote came down in favor of doing something martial arts related anyway. But I thought that's cool, that's fine, because we haven't really had a martial arts discussion or anything related to martial arts. We've just been talking about other things happening in the world. So yeah, we're overdue for some martial arts related topics. So today we're going to be talking about the time I went to a competition and ended up staying in a haunted house. Okay. So this competition, it was the Taekwondo International World Taekwondo Championships. Oh, hey Ben, watching and cooking, so replies might be slow. No, that's fine, absolutely fine. What are you cooking anyway? Tonight, me and Katie, we had a lovely quiche with boiled veg and piccalilli. It was delicious. Haven't had quiche in ages. And our colonial friend Rob, he well, what time? Let me. Oh, the clock's not even up there. But clock is still packed away in the box. Still very much in the process of moving, as you probably see from the boxes over there. But he's probably having lunch. I think he's still at work. If I've got my time to write with him, so he's probably having, I don't know, peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something. One pot chicken and rice. Ooh, actually sounds quite nice. Well, enjoy. Like I said, yeah, absolutely, that's fine. In terms of like, if replies and stuff might be slow, that's, you know, no biggie. Actually, the last live stream we had, Rob popped up and he contributed quite a bit to the discussion, along with another American subscriber who I didn't realize had been subscribed to my channel for quite a long time, but we just hadn't talked. He just popped up into the live stream and we were like talking like old friends. It was like, oh, great. Then somebody popped up in the live stream and they're like, hey Sam, I've got a K1 fight coming up, so I've just come to say hello. Then he just disappeared. It was like, okay, go kick some ass. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, anyway, where were we? So yeah, tonight's live stream about the time I stayed in a haunted house when I went off to this competition. So this competition was the Taekwondo World Championships run by TAGB, Taekwondo Association of Great Britain. And this wasn't the first World Championships I went off to. I've been off to a World Championship in 2016. And this was actually the second World Championship I was going to go to, and I was representing Malta. So I was like, wow, you know, really excited, going to the World Championship. Who's not going to get excited? And teams from all over the world were coming. You've got teams from like America, States, you've got teams from Canada, you've got Australia, close to home, you've got like Switzerland, Germany, France. You've got a team from Nepal. And I went representing Malta, because that's a story in itself, how I came to represent Malta, but I've always represented Malta in international competitions since 2016. So I got the Maltese flag, I got the colours, and went along. But before that, before the whole competition itself, I mean, the competition was hosted in Birmingham, and it was held in what's called the Utilita Arena, which used to be the National Indoor Arena, which they used to film gladiators in. So whenever I look back and see old footage of gladiators, which is not very often, to be honest, I keep thinking to myself, you know, that's where I performed, and that's where I competed, representing Malta and all this kind of stuff. But going to Birmingham, obviously, it was this whole competition. It was like a long weekend. I think it was like a 3, maybe even, if I remember correctly, it was a 4-day event in July 2018. Now, 2018, I remember, was a very, very hot year. I think that was like the first in a series of hot years that we had in England, and the grass was dying, and the grass was green, but then it started burning. It looked more like a desert than anything else. And it was just really hot, really stuffy. And I think just English people being English people, we weren't expecting that kind of heat. And the middle of July as well. Yeah, it was boiling from what I can remember. But anyway, I got myself some training done. I was training for this competition, and as the date was getting closer and closer, and I kept getting reminders from the organisers of this World Championship saying, like, oh, you know, make sure that you book these hotels and blah, blah, blah. If you book, I think it was like the Jury Inn, which is the middle of Birmingham, you can get a discount and you can get this, you can get that. Just say that you're here for this and blah, blah, blah. And it all sounded cool. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's look into this Jury's Inn package that the competition organisers were putting on. But it came with a snag because it was like, to get the best deal, you need to pay like £500 like a night. It was something so ridiculous. And I was like, oh, I'm not paying that. And at the time, the job I had, £500 was kind of like half my monthly wage. So I was like, nah, not doing that. So I went on to booking.com. And I remember I was like, right, I can find us a nice, reasonably priced accommodation for however long it was, 3-4 nights, whatever. And I was going through all these hotels in Birmingham, and Birmingham, I'd always led to believe, I'd only ever been to Birmingham once prior to that in my life. The time I went to Birmingham, it didn't make an impression. It was a horrible place. The only good thing to come out of Birmingham, as far as I'm concerned, the only two good things were Black Sabbath and Napalm Death. Other than that, in my mind, nothing else good came from Birmingham. It just wasn't a nice place. So I was expecting to have these cheap hotels, but all the hotels which came up were like mega expensive, and looking minimum again of like £300. And I sat there and I was thinking to myself, like, what on earth has happened? What's happened to all these cheap hotels? What about a travel lodge? And even travel lodges, I think they're all fully booked because, of course, all these other international teams were coming to Birmingham for this event. So I was beginning to not panic per se. I'm not a panicky kind of person, but I was beginning to kind of feel the urgency of trying to find accommodation. So I was on Booking and I was going through this hotels, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what we can find. And I came across a hotel on booking.com called Birmingham Best Inn. And I kid you not, that was the name of the hotel, the Birmingham Best Inn. That should have been alarm bell number one. Any hotel, or for that matter, any company that calls themselves the best, you know, are just not going to be the best. And yet, I looked at it and thought, you know what, name aside, I saw the pictures of this hotel and it actually looked really nice. It looked really ornate and like Victorian. But what really caught me was the price. That was my main important thing at that time, was just the price. It was about £20 per night. So I looked at it and thought, okay, I could go with this package that the tournament organisers are giving out, £500 for 4 nights, or I can go for Birmingham Best Inn, £20 a night for 4 nights. So I was like, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to go for that. And I was going purely on the low cost and the photos, which came up on Indeed, and the name to a small degree. Now, that should have been me. That was a rookie mistake. All of that was a rookie mistake, and I should have learned from that, and I should have taken all that into consideration. If you're going to have a hotel which goes at the rate of £20 a night, you're not going to get good stuff. Anyway, but looking at the photos of this thing, like I said, it looked really ornate and Victorian. The photo was like of a lobby, and the floor was all kind of black and white marble kind of tiles, and it had these big lush plants in the corner. The counter was all golden, and there's nice marble all over the place, and it looked really nice. And it said as well, the description, it said there's a restaurant on site. There's like an Indian restaurant, an authentic Indian restaurant, and I love Indian food anyway. So I was like, okay, that's great. Hotel has parking, so I was like, okay, that's great as well. What else did it say? If I remember correctly, I think it said something. It's got a swimming pool or something. I Yeah, I'm pretty damn sure it said something about swimming pool. So I was like, this place is perfect. This has got everything. So without further ado, I booked it. And things with booking, you have to give like your debit card information. And it's always a bit weird on booking.com because it says, we will not use or take any money out of your card until you actually go to the property. Then the money, the details, card details you've given, then it will take them out. And I've always been really suspicious of that because quite often in the past, what I've done, whenever I've given them my card details, they claim it's for a holding deposit or some crap like that. I always check my bank balance and it's like, actually, yeah, you guys are bullshitting me because you have taken money out. And that's actually what happened with Birmingham Best Inn. That should have been alarm bell number 4 or 5 by this point, but I was so desperate to get a hotel. I was like, not even registering this, and it was all these red flags going. Anyway, it got up to the day that the team representing Malta with pride were meant to drive up to this hotel, Birmingham Best Inn. And even then, the name didn't even clock with me. Any hotel calling themselves Best in Birmingham is bound to be shit. And it just didn't clock with me. I think I was just too excited about the whole thing. So I was like, yeah, driving up, listening to Iron Maiden or whatever, Pantera or something blaring out the sound system. We got lost going to Birmingham, but we ended up in like the real rough area of Birmingham. This was like burnt out cars in the gardens and dilapidated trampolines where you could see like blood from where kids have slipped and broken their arms or smashed their faces in or something. But eventually we got back on track and followed sat nav, and we came to the Birmingham Best Inn. First impressions, the first time we came around the corner of this junction and we saw the Birmingham Best Inn. Now with the name, remember, with Birmingham Best Inn, you expect it to be a grand hotel. And bearing on what I said earlier about the photos that I saw of Birmingham Best on the inside, looking like a palace, you expect it to all be like a big palace. What did we get? It was not even one house. It was like 5 houses, 5 council houses all joined together, all lopsided. And because these houses weren't like normal council terrace houses where everything's all level together, it was like the first house was wonky roofed, and then it kind of jutted down because the second house was a bit smaller. Third house kind of overlapped and went in a different angle. Then that dropped down because it went into another house. It looked like Addams Family house having a seizure, is the way to describe it. It was all over the place. It looked as well, you could see like where one house ended and the other one joined, and all the bricks didn't even line up. And we drove up to the front and we saw this, and we were like, what the hell is this place? And we were looking at sat nav again. We're like, surely we're in the wrong place. This cannot be a hotel. But the sat nav didn't lie. It was like, no, you've arrived at your destination. You're at the Birmingham Best Inn, Oldham Road, or whatever the hell the road was called in Birmingham. So we looked from sat nav out the car window to the hotel, and we're like, oh my god! It's like, what the hell have we got ourselves into? And a lot of the windows at the front were smashed, and I'm not kidding. They were literally smashed. There was just rubbish, like rubbish bags and rubbish bins lying like sideways on the floor, and the bags were just like lying on the floor as well, with refuse and trash coming out. Paintwork was all like peeling from the outside, and it was a combination of like wood. They had these some of the rooms at front have these balconies, which I'll see if I can show you a picture a little bit later on, so you can see what I mean. And it's all like black paint, but all the paint was peeling off, and it wasn't just peeling off. You could see the wood was warped, obviously from weathering. So even the balconies didn't look safe. And you're thinking, my God, if you got a room and you wanted to go out onto the balcony, that risks collapsing. And that was a very, very real prospect. But we were like, well, maybe it's not so bad on the inside. Maybe shouldn't judge a book by its cover. That could all just be cosmetic. So we tried parking at the front of this hotel. Bearing in mind the hotel did advertise itself as having parking. And it did have parking at the front of sorts. But it was very, very small. You could only get, I think, about 4 cars in this front car park. And even then we noticed the car park, inverted commas, had double yellow lines. So we're like, wait a minute, these aren't even proper parking spaces. This is just a road. So we parked on this road, double yellows, not very, very confused as to whether we'd even parked legally. Got our bags, went to go to the front door, and it was like locked. Okay, but we know it's not locked, but we can see lights on the inside. So anyway, we walked around the side of the building, because how to describe this? At the side of the building, there was this tiny, tiny little driveway. And when I say driveway, it was more like a footpath. You could only get like one car down there, which skipping ahead a little bit, I did drive my car down there and I almost scraped the sides against the building and the fence. But we walked down this little side alleyway, just seeing if there was like another way in. And as we walked down this little like alleyway, fence on one side, all this overgrown trees and shrubs popping out over the top. The right-hand side of us was the side of the Birmingham Best Inn. And it was like a cream color. It was like this creamy magnolia, I'd say. And looking at the windows at the floor level, again, some of them were smashed. Some of them you just glance in and you saw they didn't even have curtains, and you could see like inside the rooms, and you could see mattresses with no duvets or anything like that, no covers, and you could see just junk and trash had just been thrown into the rooms. But there was one window which was like, I think it was like the top floor, and this part of the building anyway had about like 3 floors. Top window at the top, and the window was open, and coming out of the window and going down the length of the wall on the outside was blood. Or what I thought at the time was blood. I looked at it. You know, you just kind of look at something and you have to do like a double take because you see something and like, what the hell is that? And you have to look back at it. When I first caught a glimpse of it out of my peripheral, it was like red stains, what looked like red blood stains coming down the wall. But when we did like a second take, I think actually it wasn't blood. It was like ketchup from like a burger or something, because next to the Birmingham Best Inn, there was a McDonald's. Now, I don't like McDonald's at all, but I actually felt safer and more secure and happier when we went to the McDonald's for our like dinners and lunches than I did actually in the Birmingham Best Inn itself. But yes, I think it was actually like ketchup. Somebody had obviously like thrown a burger up at the window and it had splattered and would just drip down. Which again, in and of itself, is just disgusting. It's like, you know, why does anybody want to do that unless you're a chav or you've got like some sort of like psychiatric condition, antisocial personality disorder or something. I'm not going to bring psychology into this discussion, or at least I'm not going to try to, because I talk about psychology too much. It's been a long week at work as well. But anyway, we continued walking down this little path, whatever the hell you want to call it, this tiny little road, and suddenly it like sprouts into this giant car park. And I remember I looked at Katie and I was like, well, at least we found the real car park. But this car park, it had like smashed glass all over the floor. There was like a fenced off area in the far corner on the left, and it just had loads of trash and junk and rubbish on the other side of it. It didn't look like a safe car park. But we looked at it and thought, you know what, at least we're probably going to be, we know that we can actually park here. We're not going to get like a ticket or something like that for the next 3 or 4 days. So anyway, I ran back to the front, got my car, took it off the double yellows before a parking guy could come around, squeezed it down this little alleyway, came out into the car park, and I said, as a safety precaution, I'm going to park underneath like a lamp. And I did. There was a lamp, you know, that's my impression of a lamp, was at one part of the car park, and I drove my car right underneath it. So I was like, at least it's going to have some sort of security of having light on it during the night. Parked up, got all the stuff out, and we found the back entrance to the Birmingham Best Inn, which was literally just like a single door. And there was nothing outlandish about this door at all. It wasn't like a door which was obviously the back entrance of the building or anything like that. It was literally just, I think it was like a blue door. And it could have just been a cupboard for all we know. But we grabbed hold of the handle and just pulled it. I think we did that partly as a joke, because we were thinking, oh, where the hell does this lead? It probably leads to some dungeon or something. Judging by the state of the building already, just like smashed windows, the glass all over the car park, the horrible blood burger stains down the wall and all this kind of stuff, and how dilapidated and bad this hotel looked. But anyway, we pulled the handle and the door opens up. And what's on the inside of the door is this giant swastika saying, "Fuck off, Jews." And it's like, how apt. But anyway, we then go in, and I remember as soon as we go into in through this door, right in front of us is a set of stairs which just go straight up, and it's quite a long trek up these stairs. But as we go up, the ceiling is really low. The sides are really claustrophobic. It's like one person upstairs at a time, so you can't like go side by side. The steps themselves were all really, really wonky, and when you stepped on them, it was literally like an old creaky haunted house. It was like, and you could feel like what I felt suction on the bottom of my shoes, like when you go into a pub and people have spilt pints all over the floor, and you step on it, and you can feel the greasiness. That's what I felt going up these stairs, and we were like, "Oh my god!" It's like, what the hell is this place? And when we got to the top of the stairs into the hallway, this place turned out to be a maze of hallways. It was like something from Alice in Wonderland. But we got to the top of the stairs into this hallway, and we just looked up and down this hallway, almost like in a film, and you could see the wonkiness. You could see the floors all misaligned and just wonky. And you could see the ceilings as well, and it would like slope down in places, then slope to the sides. And if I remember correctly, it made me feel quite sick. It made me feel like quite seasick. Like, am I in like in a hall of illusions in a carnival or something? It was first impressions. It was a mix of what the fuck have we got ourselves into, and also this is actually quite cool, but with no humor involved at all. Oh, not good. Common sense at this point, bearing in mind we had all these warning flags before, the stupid name of the hotel, the weird wonkiness of the hotel, the fact that it had like pizza burger juice or whatever the fuck it was, like dripping down the wall, mashed up car park, the house looked like all the houses, it was all connected, looked as though they were falling to pieces. Big swastika on the door, going up these horrible, horrible stairs, going to this Alice in Wonderland type hallway, screaming red flags. It was literally just saying to us how bad, the house was saying, like, how bad do you want me to be for you to turn around and walk out? What's it going to take for you guys to just say, fuck this, turn around and just leave? Go to the jury's end, spend your £500 for the 4 nights. You'd be better off doing that for your own mental health and probably for your own physical health more than you would be spending time here at Birmingham Best Inn. But anyway, I think we were just too blown away by how weird this place was already. And we'd literally just been inside this house for like, must have been 2 minutes. And I'm not kidding. But anyway, we're in this corridor and we were like, right, where's reception? And what happened then was probably about 10 to 15 minutes of us going down, up and down these random corridors. And you got to the end of one corridor and it will go into another corridor. So you go down that corridor, and bear in mind, it's all still really wonky and stuff. Get to the end of that corridor and it forks off into like a T-junction. Which way do you go now? There's like no directions. There was no sign saying this way, that way, up, down, forward, backward. You don't know the difference between your mother and your meth dealer or something. So we ended up just going down these random corridors, just hoping that it would lead somewhere. And as we were going up and down this labyrinth of rabbit warren, I noticed something which was really, really disturbing. And that was that the corridors had photos, well, not photos, they're like paintings, but they're framed to be like photos, of one theme and one theme alone. Usually if you go to a hotel and you get all these photos and paintings, it's all of like different things. It's like scenery, local landmarks, I don't know, historical figures or stuff like that. There was only one theme for all these paintings and pictures: babies. It was every single wall of every corridor we went down had painting of babies and cartoons and caricatures of babies, babies dressed in nappies, babies being breastfed by this big fat lady, babies being bathed in these golden baths by a giant goose. And looking at this, and I point out to Katie, it's like, these, have you seen the pictures of these? These are so goddamn disturbing. And again, it was kind of like this strange conflict of feelings of, I'm absolutely repulsed by looking at this stuff, but at the same time, it's like, it makes you wonder, it's like, who put these up? And who thought it was a good idea to have pictures of babies all down these wonky corridors? It was so strange. And all the corridors smelt like mold. I remember it distinctly. It was just like the smell of mold, the smell of muskiness, the smell of damp. And you could see it like the corners of the carpet through. The only consistency here, besides the baby photos, was down these corridors, the carpets were red with black splodges on them. But you could see in the corners of some of these carpets, between like the carpet and the wall, mold all along the sides. And you're thinking, like, it's clearly been here for years. It's clearly leaked somewhere where fluid and water and other body fluids have been on the floor, and it's just not been cleaned properly by carpet cleaner or Henry Hoover. So that was disgusting. But amongst all this, we eventually did start to see signs going towards reception. And when I see signs, literally, it was just on random walls. There'd be an A4 piece of paper sellotaped to a wall with printed out reception, and an arrow was drawn into whichever way reception was. So they hadn't even bothered to like make a plaque or anything like that. It was literally just like, print this off reception. I won't even print off the arrow. I'll just draw the arrow and I'll stick it on these random walls, on these random corridors. And that way, we actually found the reception. And bear with me, actually, I need to have a drink before I get onto reception, because that's a strange story in itself. You know, I haven't even got to the worst parts yet. And bearing in mind, this is just like, this is the first day, the first 20 minutes of being inside this haunted house. It gets worse from here. It really does. I've actually got up the TripAdvisor website for the Birmingham Best Inn. So I'll actually read you some reviews. I actually wrote a review myself, but I'll read that a little bit later on. So yeah, anyway, we go into this reception. And bearing in mind, when I saw the photos of Birmingham Best Inn prior to me booking, most of the photos were of a reception area, which looked really, really nice. We walked, how we got into this reception, we basically went along these wonky corridors, down a set of stairs, and the stairs literally ended up right in front of the desk. So it wasn't like you go through some doors and you're in like the atrium and you kind of make your way to the desk. Literally the stairs just went down, not even a door, got to the bottom of the stairs, and reception desk was right there. And I was thinking, whoever worked behind the reception, the amount of people who come down those stairs and just turn around the corner and there's the desk, must have scared the living daylights out of the reception person. But behind the desk, or actually the reception area itself, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it didn't match the photos, but it was clean. And it didn't smell like mold. It did have like the black and white checkered floor. It had some golden marble, but not to the degree of what the photos were. It was almost kind of like, it once looked like what the photos were many years ago, and it just kind of tired itself out or whatever, and nobody be bothered to clean it. But anyway, behind the desk, which was really big, by the way, even for me, I'm 6 foot, I had to kind of like lean above it and talk to this poor man who was sitting behind the desk. But he stood up, and the first thing he said was it wasn't, "Hi, how are you doing?" or "Welcome to the Birmingham Best Inn." What you'd expect from like a normal hotel. This guy just stands up and he looks at us and he goes, "How'd you get in?" That was the introduction that we got. And me and Katie looked at him and we looked at each other and we're just like, "We came through the back door." And this guy looks at us and he goes, "What do you mean the back door? We don't have a back door." So we said, "Yeah, we came through that blue door which leads out into the car park and it's got a big swastika on it." And he kind of looks at us and I remember it was a strange expression he had. It was kind of like part of him knew the door we were talking about, but then there was another part of his expression which was kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was very, very peculiar. But he himself, I mean, he reminded me a little bit of a more of an active Lurch. I mean, he was still very tired. Emotionally, probably didn't care. Just like, well, if I get paid for doing this, I don't give a shit really what I do or how you get in. But he just kind of went, oh, okay, yeah, right. What's your names? So I told him my name and I said I had a booking. Showed him the booking reference, which I printed out from booking.com. And he just looked at it and was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so, yeah, he told me the price for 4 nights and he then got out his card machine. And I was like, but no, I've already paid for this. Because when I made that booking before, and I checked my bank, I printed out a statement saying that this money had gone out. So I said to this guy, I was like, no, I've paid. And he was like, no, you've got to pay in on reception when you check in. You've got to pay. And I was like, not having this. I was like, no. Bearing in mind what I'd seen at the hotel already, I was like, I'm not trusting this guy with my card. So I was like, no. And I pulled out the receipt from the bank. I was like, look, it says here I've paid Birmingham Best Inn. This is the cost. These are the dates. I have paid. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, I need to do some checks and I'll come back to you later on. But in the meantime, here you go. Here's your room key. You'll be in room whatever it was, I don't know, 4079 or whatever, how many rooms this labyrinth had. And then he, as well as the key, he said, yeah, and here you go as well. Here's your holding deposit. And he gave me a TV remote, literally a TV remote like this. And he just literally like put it in my hand. And I looked at him, Katie looks at him, we looked at each other. I was like, okay, thanks. And then as we said that, before we went off, oh yeah, we did say, okay, how would you get to room whatever it was, 400 whatever. He's like, oh yeah, you're quite lucky. It's quite near the front. So you just go up the stairs you came down, go to the left, then there's another corridor you have to go down, and that goes off to the right, and you go down some steps, and then that will turn to the right, and then you go down into the basement area. And it was like, don't worry, we'll find it. I'm sure we'll find it. We got this far going through the maze. I'm sure we can go a few more corridors, and it may even be fun. We may find like funny things along the way that we can laugh about. But as we said this, and before we went off, for the first time, I actually paid attention to what was behind the clerk at the reception desk, and it was like something from like 1984, because the whole wall at the back of this guy's reception was made up of TV cameras. And I paid attention to it. I really looked at these TV cameras because I think what got my attention was some movement which happened in one of the cameras. So I kind of just, you know, psychologically, not getting into psychology, but anything that kind of moves, it will naturally get your attention. It's a survival mechanism, goes back to evolutionary days. So I saw something moving on the camera, so it caught my attention. And that's when I first paid attention to it. It's like, what are those cameras looking at? And it was a combination of things. It was like, some of the cameras were looking down corridors. So it's obviously corridors in the hotel. Some of them were actually for rooms. What I didn't see a camera for, though, was the car park. And actually, I remember I actually raised that with the guy. I was like, oh, you know, I've just parked around the back. Just be honest with me, is my car going to be safe? And he was a bit like, well, if you park under a light, it should be safe. Should be. But then you think, well, communism should work. That's not the case. So I was, throughout the whole duration of our stay there, I was like biting my nails, and I was, yeah, thinking, oh God, you know, am I going to come back to my car and its wheels have been removed and it's sitting on breeze blocks or something, or it's been spray painted with more tags or whatnot. So anyway, I was like, oh, okay. I'm just going to have to keep a physical eye on it. I'm going to have to like regularly go out and physically check my car to make sure it's okay. So anyway, we got our key to the room. We got our TV remote. So me and Katie went off again back into the labyrinth. That was the Birmingham Best Inn. Up these stairs, down all these corridors and what have you, literally going up to doors and just seeing what the numbers were on the door. And some rooms had numbers, but they weren't kind of like chronological. It wasn't like room 4, next door 5, followed by 6. It was like room 27, room 5, room 38, room 407. It was like, what, who made this place? It must have just been a sick joke. And some rooms, pardon me, too much excitement. I'm reliving my trauma. Some of these rooms didn't even have numbers, they had names. And we saw one room and it had a plaque. I think this room must have been like a glamorous suite, because the door was different. It was made like an oak door, and all these other doors that we saw were like manky white plywood. But this big door was like oak, and it had like a little golden plaque on it. And it said Black Heath. So the room was called Black Heath. But somebody, getting a bit creative, some yobbo, had somehow had a black pen, and he changed the H of Heath to look like a D. So the room didn't read Black Heath, it read Black Death. So we had a bit of a laugh about that. Safe in Birmingham, laughing my ass off. Yeah. Yeah. For the whole duration, I didn't actually feel safe in Birmingham, and not just Birmingham Best End. Even like when we went out into Birmingham for like drinks or just to explore the city, I didn't feel safe. The safest I felt was actually in the competition itself, the Utilita Arena, and not because it was just full of other Taekwondo in. But the Utilita itself was actually a really nice arena. I really liked that. But whenever we went out anywhere else outside of that arena, it just did not have a nice feel to it. I can't see why anybody would want to choose to live in Birmingham. The heroin's sweet. Well, bear that thought, because going back to the story, we passed Black Death and we left, went down a few more corridors, and some of these corridors, where I said about the carpet, I remember we got to one corridor and the carpet just ended, and in its place were like these tiles. They'd all been smashed. These tiles on the floor had all been smashed, and there was water seeping from somewhere. And I thought to myself about the scene from Titanic when the ship's sinking and Rose is kind of like goes down the stairs and she sees like that corridor which is flooded. And I thought, oh my God, is that what's going to happen to us? We're going to walk down that corridor and this water is just going to come out of like nowhere, like or something. But we eventually found our room. And our room didn't even have a door handle on the outside. It was literally just a hole, and somebody had like stuffed some like screwed up paper into where the handle used to be. So that's not a good first impression, but I was beginning to get a bit of a feel for this place by this time and thinking, well, what were you expecting? So me and Katie looked at that. We kind of just rolled our eyes and were like, well, what the fuck's going to be on the inside? Is there going to be like a corpse or something on the inside? Put the key in, turn the door opens up, and we go into our room. And what hits us as we go into the room is this warm, stale air just blasts into our face. Like the heater has been on full whack, windows closed, and nobody's been in that room for like, it must have been a week. It was so musky smelling. You could feel the damp moisture in the air coupled with like just the intense heat. And bearing on what I said earlier as well, I mean, this was middle of July. So it was a really hot day. And we're thinking, who the hell puts their heater on the middle of July? These people running this place just have no brain, no common sense. But we go in, we close the door, and I think, if I remember correctly, without even probably looking at the room, me and Katie just burst out laughing. I think it was laughter of shock, laughter of just, we can't believe what we've walked into, coupled with some humor. We're like, this is like something from a Mr. Bean comedy sketch, Mr. Bean's Vacation in Hell or something like that. But so we see the funny side, but it's kind of like, tears come down as well. Like, never stayed in a place like this anywhere in the world I've been. I've seen hotels in Sri Lanka which put this fucking Birmingham Best Inn to shame. But anyway, we close the door. First thing we do, we push this cupboard up against the door. We're like, you know, we're not saying we're going to lock the door, but we're also going to push this cupboard up against it. The cupboard itself was like falling to pieces. It was like this old ornate thing. It looked like as though it's from like Victorian times. You pull the drawer, and the drawer just like comes straight out of the cabinet. We opened up another drawer, and it's got like moldy bed stains inside it, and you can see like the bed sheets have got specks of blood. So we're not using that. And it just looks stained. You know, the lesser of all the evils, but it's got marks on it. It's got scuff marks. It's clearly not being cleaned. Katie then, the window as well is the only window to this room is like next to our bed. Our bed's against the wall, but the wall above the bed, it has this window, and it's one of these big, long, rectangular ones. So it's not even like a proper window. It's like this rectangular thing. And it only opens up a certain way as well. So Katie opens it up, pushes it open. She's like, we need to get some fresh air in here. And how to describe this, but bearing in mind what I said about the hotels, all these different houses which are just connected. So it's not level. You look out the window, and actually what we saw actually was the roof of another house, which was connected to this Birmingham Best Inn. But it was like a little bit down underneath the window. And then that went to a wall, and then that connected to another house, which then went up. So I suppose, long story short, we opened up a window, and it kind of looked out onto a dip, which then looked up against a wall. But I suppose that's the easiest way to describe it. But when we opened it up, immediately Katie was like, oh, that's fucking sick. So I come running along because I'm morbidly interested to see what she's found. And I look out the window, and on this little roof, or rooflet, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's full of drug paraphernalia. Heroin syringes, spoons, tinfoil, brown lady, weed. I'm sure there was white powder as well. I mean, obviously that could have been anything else, but I mean, it's mixed with loads of other drug paraphernalia. So I'm sure it probably would have been, or I'm going to make an educated guess, I think it was like crack or something like that. And I actually, it wasn't funny. It really wasn't. I mean, it was repulsive. It was horrible. But something inside me was like, no, this is just unbelievable. I had to take a picture, and I got out my phone, and Katie was still there with like the window open. She was looking down at this with this expression like, oh. And I literally just got the phone and put it up to her face and went, smile. And she was just like, oh, fuck off. You found the minibar. But then we decided to actually then look at the state of the radiator in our room. But the next thing was to turn the radiator off. The radiator was like lopsided, so it wasn't even properly fixed onto its fittings, which again could have been like a leak hazard, that could be a fire hazard, middle of the night, that thing could collapse, and hot water goes all over the bed and scalds us. The bed itself, the bed was actually clean, from what I can remember. It had clean sheets, so the bed was okay. And I was like, as long as I can sleep in that, I'm going to be happier. I wouldn't say happy, but happier. The room was actually really big. It was bigger for what it needed to be. And part of the room was almost like a corridor. And if you went down to the end of the corridor, there was an old armchair in the corner. It looked as though it was from, again, the 1700s. It was green, and it was brown, and with strange pattern. It was greasy as fuck. Because I went up to it, it was like, what's this strange color on this chair? It's like going black. And I went to put my hand on it, and I could feel the slime on this chair. And I pulled my hand away. I was like, oh, that is repulsive. And you could see like the marks of where somebody had sat in it, and the grease had just come off of them. So that had probably been there for decades. And I'm not exaggerating. It must have been there for decades for it to have gone black. And again, there are 3 pictures down this corridor in this room. And the pictures, the paintings were of babies. Again, it was this baby theme. Like, I remember one of them was like this painting of this big fat baby, and it was like sucking a bottle, and there was this goose behind it with a big wooden spoon. And it was like something from a nightmare. It was like Kafka had to Dante's latest Circle of Hell, and that's what he saw. And he then transferred it into artwork. It was weird. And then from there, because it was such a hot day, and I'd been driving all day, I needed a shower. Now, Katie refused to use the shower for the whole duration we were there. But I was like, no, I need to have a shower. I'm sweaty. I'm not going to like lie on the bed feeling greasy and turn the bed into the other armchair. I'm not doing that. So I went into this bathroom. The bathroom window was smashed. The shower head itself was like taped up with duct tape. And when I tried turning it on, it didn't even come out of the shower head. It just bubbled up to like where the duct tape was and just spewed out all over the place. The bathtub itself had a crack, and it had a giant centipede in it as well. No kidding. The toilet wasn't even properly screwed onto the floor. So you sat on it and it wobbled and liquid came out. And the taps, or the sink wasn't properly screwed on either. So you held the side of the sink and you could like move it backwards and forwards. Not that you wanted to do that anyway, but I mean, it did have a big crack going down it, and I thought, this doesn't feel secure. And also, when I went to turn the tap, the whole like faucet tap system like spun around, and it was like a DJ turntable. So I had to hold onto the tap itself and then turn the valve, the screw, for any water to come out. And when the water did come out of the shower, it was clean, surprisingly, but it was freezing cold. But I didn't mind that, admittedly, because it was like such a hot day and this room was so horrible and stuffy. I was like, well, I'd rather it be cold, admittedly, cold and clean. So that was like the only saving grace so far. Likewise, I mean, I'm not big on TV anyway, but they did have a TV and it looked modern. So we tried the TV, and I think, if I remember correctly, one channel worked, but it stayed on for like 2 minutes and then it just went black. And you could hear what was being played, but the screen was just black. So, and we did that a few times. We turned it off a few times and tried coming back on a few times. And the same thing would happen. It would be like 2 minutes worth of whatever the hell was on TV. Then it would just go black and you could hear in the background, but you couldn't see the program. And they did have a kettle as well, like complimentary all hotel rooms in the UK. That was clean, surprisingly, but I had to like real double check it, like lift up the lid and look inside and expect to see like a dead cockroach or something. Luckily, that was clean. So we did use that, but we had our own like teas and coffee supplies and our own little mugs, which we drank. We didn't want to use their stuff. So that was the hotel room. So, sorry, I need to take a break. I'm still traumatized by this. Oh, hey, Rob. I broke the board barefooted on the second attempt with a side back kick at last night's TKD Blue High exam. Hey! Well done, Rob. So you're a blue belt now. So I have to, what's a side back kick? Are you talking a spinning side kick? No, thank you. I mean, you're more than welcome. Rob, you've joined us at a very, very traumatizing part of my life. Talking about the time I stayed in this absolutely dire hotel, and I'll read you some reviews about it in a minute. Back kick. Yeah, cool. No, well done, Rob. So your next one will be red tag. Yeah, red tag. Did you enjoy it? Oh, enjoy. I mean, was it a good experience? It was a high blue belt going to brown belt. Oh, yeah, Taekwondo. Yeah, TKD. Yeah, I know what you mean. some styles use the brown belt system more than the red belt. Well, well done, congratulations, and glad you did that. And yeah, keep kicking A. Oh, bear with, I think one of the cats wants to go out. Okay, so I was nervous. Even the master said for me to calm down after I said it's morphing time. When he said it's time for high blue kata. Gradings are stressful. I feel we sometimes put like a lot of expectation on ourselves, but you know, you've got this far, you've proven you can do it, and you know, it's good for the confidence. Good for the confidence to prove that you can do that. So yeah, well done once again. Okay, so going back to the story, so I'd explored the hotel room and realized it was a pigsty. So we stayed at this hotel room until like the evening time, and we're like, right, deciding what to do for dinner. We're like, okay, we could either go to Mackie D's, which was this restaurant like right next door to Birmingham Best Inn, or we go into Birmingham for the night. And we decided to go into Birmingham. I mean, God knows why, but we thought, you know, how after we've seen Birmingham Best Inn, Birmingham itself cannot be that bad. So we went into Birmingham, and admittedly, it wasn't that bad. I think we just went to a Wetherspoons in central Birmingham, and it was just like a typical Wetherspoons, full of students, quite cheap and cheerful, nothing really spectacular. But I think we wanted to stay out as long as we could, just to avoid going back to Birmingham Best Inn. But the time came when we finished. We had a few beers, and I think the beers helped actually, because the beers made us a bit more sort of like lightheaded. And we're like, oh man, we've got to go back to that horrible haunted house. And we saw it as a bit more of like a jokey kind of thing. So anyway, we got the bus back to this bus stop, got off, went inside to Birmingham Best Inn. Or first, I remember checking my car, and it was fine. Actually, my car, strange enough, throughout the whole duration we were there, the car was fine, which really surprised me. But I was so relieved when we came to leave, and it was okay. But we went back inside Birmingham Best Inn, walked through the front entrance this time. But before we went into the front entrance, remember at the beginning I said, when we first pulled up to this hotel and there was that room with the balcony overlooking the front, the balcony, it looked as though it was about to collapse. As we were walking up to the front from our night out, I saw the room with the balcony, the light was on, and I saw again like figures moving back and forward, like silhouettes of figures in the hotel room. So my attention was drawn to that, just quite naturally. So, oh, you know, there's people in that room. Oh yeah, that's the really wonky balcony room, isn't it? And I saw a figure on the balcony having a cigarette, and I could see like the ash or the whatever you want to call it, the lightness, the lighter of the fag. I don't smoke, you know, whatever. But I could see them smoking. So I paid attention to more of this character, and I was like, something different about this person. So I stopped and I really looked up at the balcony. I really paid all my attention to this balcony, and it suddenly clocked this guy who was sitting on the balcony smoking was really, really fat. He was sitting in this chair, like all bloated. When I say fat, I mean he was like almost Yokozuna, if you remember back to wrestling days. And he was sitting on this chair, just like. And not only that, he was naked. He was stark naked. And when I clocked, actually, he wasn't wearing any clothes whatsoever, I actually grabbed Katie and just pulled her into the lobby. I was like, no, I don't want you to see that. So we went into the lobby, went up to the front desk. It was like this lady this time. The guy must have finished his shift. This Eastern European lady was like, what want? I said, we've already checked in. We want the key to go to our room. She was like, what room? And told her the name of the room. So she turned around. She went to go and find our key. Bearing in mind, I was looking at all these TV screens now at like the back of the hotel room and just seeing all these videos of or live footage that these cameras were filming of this hotel down the hallways and in people's rooms. And some people were doing some very strange things like drugs, and you could see them doing drugs. And you could see like people having threesomes and stuff. And anyway, as I was waiting for this lady to get the key, this drunk man comes in with this lady who, don't sound prejudiced, but you could tell she was a lady of the night. And he comes up to the front desk and he goes to this Eastern European lady. He's like, "All right, love. Yeah, I've made a booking at the Birmingham Best Inn, and yeah, I booked it under the name Bob." And she looks through this register and she's like, "We don't have a Bob." And he's like, "All right, okay, it must be Sid." And she's like, "We don't have a Sid on register. What is going on?" And then the lady says like, "It's under my name, Mistress Savage." And the Eastern European lady's like, "Oh yes, Mistress Savage, yes, room number 5, here's your key." And they go off and they're laughing and giggling. Then she gives me my room key. So me and Katie head off, and lo and behold, this guy's room with this Mistress Savage is right next door to our room. I mean, it couldn't have been planned. Out of this, how big this hotel was, 500 odd rooms, this guy with his dominatrix had to be right next door to my hotel room. And anyway, I go to my hotel door and I'm fiddling around the key. Bearing in mind, it doesn't even have a door handle. And I kind of look over to the side and see this Bob character with this lady, and she's like, "Get in there, Bob," and pushes him through the door. And it's like, whatever. So me and Katie go in, and by this time we're like, we can't even watch TV. Let's just try and get to sleep. So we like lie on the bed, getting ourselves ready for bed, and we're just lying there. And then next door, bearing in mind this room's like complete black, because I forgot to say it did have light in this room, but I mean it was so dim. It was like living in a bat cave or something. It was painful having the light on. So we're just like, look, let's just turn the light off. So we're lying there, and it's middle of July, and as I said earlier, July in England in 2018 was like one of the hottest years we've ever had. It was horrible. It was moist. You could feel the moisture and the mugginess. And then in the darkness, we heard from next door, Bob and Madame Savage, or whatever the fuck her name was. We heard, and that was Bob. And then we heard her, and she was going, "Get you back and do it," like this, and it was so uncomfortable. Part of me, I was so tired as well because of all the traveling, but part of me was just like, look, maybe for like just an hour, I'd like to go up and maybe go to Mackie D's just to get away from this place and to get away from that horrible noise. Wow, that's scary. Of course, the TV was in some foreign language. No, the TV, you turned it on, and it would play for like 2 minutes of whatever TV channel. It could only tune into one TV channel, and you couldn't even choose what channel you wanted to watch. It was like automatically programmed in. So you watch like 2 minutes worth, and then the TV would just turn itself off. But it'll be a black screen, but you could still hear what was happening on the program. So you could be watching the news. The screen will go black, but you could still hear the anchorman talking about what was going on in the news. So even that wasn't amusing. And yet again, prior to going to sleep that night, I pushed the cupboard back in front of the door. Next day we got up, we went to Mackie D's next door just for breakfast. And there was a lady who was working there, and I actually called the lady over. I was like, okay, what's the deal with that Birmingham Best Inn place just across the road? I was pretending that we weren't staying there, but I was just like, because this building looked so weird because it was all lopsided and falling in on itself. And I was like, well, what is it? It's like Crazy House. And she was like, oh yeah, that's the Birmingham Best Inn. It was just the way she said it. And I was feigning innocence. And I was like, oh, Birmingham Best Inn. Oh, what could you tell me about the Birmingham Best Inn? And she was like, it's not a nice place. And that's all she said. And she just turned around and just walks off. Me and Katie look at each other and we're just like, fuck. We go into Birmingham that day anyway. I think that was the day of the competition. So we didn't have an excuse to stay in the Birmingham Best Inn that day. We had work to do in Birmingham, did our competition. We went out for like a celebratory meal at the end of that competition. So we were trying to spend as long as we could away from Birmingham Best Inn. But again, there came a time when the day ended, we had to go back and we had to sleep there. So we went back, and I think that night we were just like, we were trying to make our own entertainment. We're like, you know what would be really funny? If we bought booze in here, we got drunk, and we took our cameras and we went up and down these corridors of this hotel. Bearing in mind, this whole building was literally just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of corridors, which just went off into random different directions, full of baby photos on the wall. Corridors where the floor was like flooded with water and body fluids. And I was like, let's just film it, and we can like put it on the YouTube channel and make a funny story about it. So we did. We got our cameras, we went out of our room, went up and down all these like corridors, and we're doing these like documentaries about this place and this haunted house. And then we began to see quite regularly actually like graffiti on other people's doors and on the walls. And it's obviously thugs and yobbos and whatever just going along and just spraying their tags everywhere. And it was quite regular. We actually saw quite a few doors, bedroom doors, where these big boot marks were on them. So it's obviously, like, again, junkies and stuff going up to people's doors and just trying to kick the doors down. We saw like some graffiti. It said stuff like, the worst graffiti I saw was on a wall. It said, "White people smell like shit." But there was like loads of other graffiti, like horrible stuff. It was like Alex Bullard's her pussy smells like fish, you know, crap like this. And some of it you just couldn't even distinguish. A lot of it was like in foreign languages and stuff as well. Very, very, very peculiar. But when that was our last night there, and we were so glad to leave. The following day, we did come to leave, and actually, I checked the mattress of our bedroom before we left, and I actually found bed bugs. Like, just lifted it up, all bed bugs all underneath it, and it's strange because as soon as I noticed that, I then looked down at my legs, and I hadn't even noticed, but on my shins I had like bite marks. So the bed bugs had been biting me during the whole stay that I was there, and I hadn't even noticed it until the day that I came to leave. So I was like, fine, I've probably got some sort of like septicemia or some infection now. So we got out of there as quick as we could. We were just like, look, we're not spending any further time here. We've done the competition. Let's just go. Let's get the fuck out of this horrible, horrible place. Where are the ghosts? Well, Ben, come on. Ghosts don't exist. What did you think this was? A haunted house? It's a haunted house in all the other ways, just not with the ghosts. But when we came to leave, we were walking down one of the many corridors, and we actually we turned around one of the corners. This corridor was really, really long, and we saw in the middle of the floor this bucket, just a yellow bucket, nothing else around it, and there was like drops of water coming into it. So we walked a bit closer up, and obviously it was like from a leaky ceiling, but there was like no sign or anything like that saying caution wet floor. But we looked up at the ceiling, and the drip was literally coming right next to a light, and the light was on, and it was flickering. And I thought, water, electrics, it's like that can fucking explode. And went to reception, handed the remote control that they gave us at the beginning. I was like, here's the key, here's your remote control. And I said to the guy, again, it was a completely different guy. I was like, on one of the corridors, we saw a bucket which had a drip, and it's coming right next to a light switch. And I said, it could be worth actually turning the lights off. If you've got a circuit breaker to that part of the building, it could be worth temporarily turning that off and getting an electrician and getting somebody in to fix that, because that's a fire hazard. And the guy literally just went, "No, all right," but completely disinterested. So I'm trying to save your fucking ass, not just your job, but your life. Okay. And I didn't even say goodbye to us. We were just like, okay, well, we're off now. We've checked out. And he just went, turned to his computer and started clacking away. And it's like, whatever. Got into the car. We just sped out of this place. We're just like, what the fuck have we just been through for the last 4 days? This horrible, horrible place. Hey, my dad saw a ghost once. I'll tell you about it next time I see you. Actually, I do have a ghost story. That's for another time, actually. But it was up at the place where I do my training, up at Chanctonbury Ring, where most of my videos, training tutorials, that's said to actually be haunted. And that, you know, I'm actually being quite serious about that. It's basically this old Celtic hill fort, and it's on a ley line as well. So yeah, and I've camped up there a few times, and it's actually been quite scary. But anyway, I was going to read you guys some reviews about the Birmingham Best Inn, because I actually wrote one of them. I was so disgusted by this place. And normally I don't do reviews. You know, I'll do a review if I've been to a place and the service has been really, really good. I'll say, look, you guys deserve the recognition. I'll give you a really good glowing reference. If it's been a bad place, I'll just think, well, you know what? I just won't come back. And I'll let that speak volumes. I find as well, a lot of time people leave reviews and it's just kind of their own personal prejudices, or people just like to moan, I think, a lot of the time. So they're like, I'll leave a bad review and what have you. But this one, I was so disgusted. I was like, no, I am going to leave a review. So let me bring up this Birmingham Best Inn. I'd like to share this screen with you, actually. But the last time I tried to share a screen, we had like a meltdown or something, didn't we? It went very, very, very peculiar. But as I'm not going to be doing a video or showing a video, hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay. Yeah, and as well, it'll be cool if you actually see this place. It'll put a picture to the name. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Share screen. Not Overkill. I was listening to Overkill before going live. I need to delete that, actually. So if I delete that, there we go. Share. Okay, so tell me if you can see this. Best Inn. I found out later on this is actually at the worst rated hotel in the whole of the UK. 1.5 stars out of 448 reviews on TripAdvisor. Get lost. And there it is. Birmingham Best Inn. 484 photos. Overkill. Seen them 3 times. Hey! How are you doing, Steve? Steve, you joined us at... I've explained the whole story about this horrible, horrible house. You'll have to make do with all the pictures now. A picture can paint 1,000 words. But yeah, Overkill. Oh, what was the album? No, Bloodletting. So anyway, shall we start with the reviews? Oh, this place now. I went back about like 2 years later on. Me and Katie, we made it a joke. We talked about it so often that I then phoned them up and I was like, yeah, I want to make a booking. And I was asking these really technical questions, and they were like, yes, we do that. And I said, can I book a room by the hour? And they were like, yes, you can. And I was like, oh, that's great. Can I bring a lady of the night in? Yeah, you can. Then I went, oh, great. Can I bring my wife and 3 kids as well at the same time that I bring the lady of the night? And there's a pause, but he goes, yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Weirdos. Okay, well, but yeah, we went back about a year later on. Apparently it's now housing illegal migrants. So yeah, terrible. 1.5 terrible reviews. And this is the intro. A very warm welcome awaits you at the Birmingham Best Inn Hotel and Restaurant. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to say. The restaurant doesn't exist anymore. Well, the room exists, but it's not a restaurant. It's just like an empty room. Conveniently located less than 10 minutes from Birmingham city centre. Well, that's true. It's an ideal venue for conferences, weddings, or other celebrations, or as a base to explore the local area. We pride ourselves on a reputation in the Birmingham for exceptional service. Yeah. Fantastic dining, which doesn't exist, and an all-encompassing, unique hotel experience. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to argue about the last part. The splendid decor really makes the Birmingham Best Inn special. Well, yeah, bearing in mind, so the only artwork they have is like paintings of babies and geese beating them with sticks. Behind the entrance, you'll find a labyrinth. Yes, a labyrinth of corridors, like hundreds of them, of intimate alcoves and meandering corridors intertwined with contemporary monochrome rich colors and characteristic features. You will find a large flat screen TV with one channel, which doesn't work, snack menu, and champagne. I was never given champagne. It lies. And a custom-built veranda in our bar. It didn't have a bar. Yeah, so that's what they're advertising themselves. Now that, in and of itself, sounds really, really cool. Low horror hotel. Yeah, I kid you not, Steve. It's like the story I told. I saw a naked, big fat naked man on the balcony smoking. There was a dominatrix with a client in the room next to me. The bathtub had a giant centipede in it. The toilet was coming away. Outside the bedroom window was full of drugs, like on this roof thing. They had graffiti on the wall that said, "White people smell like shit." They had a dripping a drip from the ceiling next to some electrical sockets. It was vile. Jesus Christ, that's funny as fuck. Ben, I haven't even got to the reviews yet. All the pictures. You're going to be crying. You're not going to find this funny. I had to stay in this fucking place for 4 days. The geese are beating the baby. Yeah, but this, when I walked into this place, Ben and Rob, bear with me because I know you guys know this part of the story, but down these corridors, this whole building, basically it's 5, 6, 7 different buildings joined together. So you go down a corridor for one, but then it will go into the next building. So the corridor would like go down a level or it would change. But the only artwork they had were paintings, like cartoon paintings of babies. And they'd be like babies in bathtubs. There'd be babies at school or babies eating porridge. And there was one or quite a few paintings I saw where you see these babies crying. And there'd be like a mother goose figure with this big wooden spoon, like pretending to beat them. It was so fucking weird. I've never seen artwork like that. And I've been to the Tate Modern in London. If you've ever been to the Tate Modern in London, the artwork there, it sucks. It really is bad, despite what people say. This Birmingham Best Inn artwork was 10 times worse. It was just so disturbing. You ever seen The Shining? No? Good. It must be a new experience for you. Oh, you're reading the reviews. Yeah, I saw that one. Somebody said if Stephen King needs inspiration, he needs to stay here. Being caught buttering. That's one way to put it. Yeah, I heard his noises in the night, and it was so weird. Different times. It was called Jonathan's. I mean, that's what you see there. It's kind of like the front. It doesn't look anything like that. Not anymore. It's grey. It was dour. But look, you can see where my mouse is. You can see like where the roof changes, like size, because that's like a different house which has been joined up. So that's why those don't really level up with each other. And on the inside, the corridors are all kind of a bit wonky as well. The front entrance is kind of like down here-ish. Yep, that's one of the rooms. Not my room. I think this is the Black Death room I told you about. It's like the big brothel. No, the TV was basically like that in my room. That room actually doesn't look as bad, to be honest. I think I got like a short straw. That was more like my room. But the granny chair, the same kind of granny chair was in my room, but it was all like black. It was much blacker than this. And these arm parts were like falling apart and ripped. But the bed was basically the same. The wallpaper was like the same. But if we can get a zoom in of those, you can probably see some babies in those pictures. At least the Tate is free to go into. Yeah, I've actually got a strange story about when I took a school of disabled children to the Tate Modern, and we saw a really, really disturbing piece of artwork. Not as disturbing as the babies, but it was very strange. Are you familiar with that Punch and Stench album, Sam? The album art for it specifically. Pungent Stench. I feel like I should know that. Is that like a gore band or something? It sounds like something a Pig Destroyer or Cannibal Corpse or something would do. Sounds very familiar. I feel like I should know that one. Butchered at Birth is a horrible album cover. Oh, no, there's one by Sodom. I think the album cover is called something like, it's an orange one, and there's like this prostitute chained to a radiator or something like that, or she's dead on a bed. I'm trying to remember what that one's called. Now, this is like a library room. Yeah, but it's all stuff like this. But nothing really kind of like adds up. I mean, what the hell is that little bit supposed to be? That cable just kind of like goes to nowhere. Fuck knows what that is. It's like a window. Well, it looks as though they're having a good time. There's a video on YouTube. I think it's a Turkish guy did a video. If you type in Birmingham Best In into YouTube, and he was in this room because I recognize that strange thing. But everything's just so wonky and dilapidated, smashed in with like wonky radiators and holes in the wall. Yeah, that was the corridor I went down. But the carpet bit further up here, the carpet stops and it just goes into that. It's, these windows at the time were all smashed as well. Pungent stench being caught. Oh man, pungent stench. God. I was promised. Ben, I don't make promises. Now that was very much like my room, but the radiator was like on the wall instead of this thing, and the bathroom was through that little bit there. Yeah, and that little TV, that could actually have been my room, to be honest. But look, you can see the bath, it's kind of coming away there. That is disgusting. Curtain looks like it's from like the 60s. I'm trying to find that. Yeah, and these would like wobble around. You went to turn the faucet and it would like spin around. Big cracks and everything. I'm going to see if I can find that horrible graffiti. Yeah, and stuff like this. These are the only directions you know where you're going. If these signs went up here, that would just be a normal door. That could be like going to a cupboard and you'd be completely lost. Yeah, that was quite normal. That was something which was in our room as well. They had a shopping centre in there as well. I didn't actually see this, but a lot of people taking pictures of it. Yeah, that was like what was on my chair. Yeah, I remember seeing loads of that, horrible stains on the carpets. The graffiti. Yeah, I think you guys, that was like out the front. There was loads of trash like that. My room. Well, that wasn't mine. But the balcony is like there, where my cursor is, and that's where the door was open. That's where I saw that naked guy having a cigarette. And that restaurant just doesn't exist. That's with blood. That just looks diabolical. And we're only on 36 of 484. I think you get the impression about what this horrible haunted hotel was like. But seriously, I mean, I suppose. Oh, what the hell was that? I mean, what is that? Well, obviously it's like bedclothes and stuff, but why would you just throw them down the stairs like that? I'm so going to this hotel. Well, I think it is now housing asylum seekers or illegal migrants, because we went back there and we weren't allowed in, but there were some kids outside and we got talking to them and they were like, their mums and dads couldn't pay the council tax, so they got moved there or something. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to phone up this hotel just to see if we can, and I'll put it on loudspeaker as well. Birmingham Best In, writer of, oh my goodness. I want to get the phone number. Oh, here we go. Left a review. The worst hotel ever. We haven't even got onto the reviews yet. Let's phone these suckers out of a hotel window. We can ask them if we can do that. Right. So who have we got? Ben, you want to go to this hotel? Steve, do you want to come to this hotel with us? And Rob, shall I book a room for you as well? So that's 4 of us. We can sleep in the Black Death room. Let's see if we can sleep in Black Death. So, okay, let's phone 0121 330 2006. Okay, I'm gonna put this on loudspeaker. Speaker. Oh, okay. It just completely conked out, so the number must not even be in service. I'm not local, but well, that's a shame, Steve. I mean, I literally just tried calling the number, and put it on speakerphone, and it literally just, it didn't even dial. So I think the number must be out of service. So it's not there. But Ben, you can always Google map it and find out if you can like get a room or something. Fuck. Yeah, I mean, look at it. Horrent. Every piece of furniture looks like it died 10 times over, and the bed looked like a wasp's nest. Smelled worse than moldy cheese. If hell was real, it would look like paradise compared to this monstrosity. Please don't stay. Oh my goodness. Horrible. I was there for a week for complete lack of options. Everything said before is true. Disgusting, uncomfortable, dangerous. I felt unsafe, and it was so depressing I cried every single night I spent there. I mean, that photo looks like cum or something. Booked myself and children there. It was disgusting. It's a brothel. It is, yeah. This place needs to be shut down. We didn't stay there in the end as we felt unsafe. There was a bucket full of bloody baby wipes, smashed windows, hookers, no cameras, no security, reception, doors open 24/7. Imagine American Horror Story, but 100 times worse. Avoid at all costs. Grab a sleeping bag and sleep in the street would be better. Worst place ever. The worst place I've ever stayed in, and that includes sleeping in the car. A maze of smelly passages. Took 3 rooms before we settled for a rundown, dirty room. The building is unsafe and should be closed down. At least it had a jug and TV. Yeah, every room needs a jug. The shower was not mounted to the wall and was cold. There were holes in the wall, power points hanging out from the wall, smelly and dirty. Left one night early and they did not care. The pillow, only one was smaller than you would give a child. Advice, do not stay here. Are my reviews gone? No, just no. Worst hotel on earth. Hotel is dangerous. Exposed wires hanging out the walls. Fire alarm had 38 faults and sounders all turned off. Everywhere is filthy. No hot water, no towels, sink hanging off the wall. That was kind of the same as my one. The power of the shower was so rubbish, the water didn't reach the bath. Okay. Windows smashed in the room, holes in the carpets, carpet shrunk from years and years of who knows what, wallpaper peeling off the walls. The bed must have been as old as the carpets, and all I could feel were springs. I didn't chance getting into bed and slept on top for fear of catching something. Oh, top of the bed. Okay. Disgusting. You'd be better off on a park bench. Vile place. Yeah, look, I mean, room 452. This place has like thousands of rooms. Unbelievably bad. Just, yeah, just absolutely disgusting. It was such a horrible, horrible, horrible place to stay. I'm glad it just doesn't. Well, it's like being to say about all of this. Yeah, the reception was quite well presented. That's the only presentable thing. What the fuck is that? Oh, it's wires. My God. There it is. That's the Black Death room. It's called like White Heath or something, but somebody graffitied Black Death over it. Toilet smashed. So there we go. That is the Birmingham Best Inn. And I stayed there for 4 days for a martial arts competition because I was coaxed in because it was advertised at £20 a night. Just kind of like the lesson you can learn from that, it just kind of like goes to the, just because it's cheap, it doesn't mean it's going to be good. You know, I actually feel quite traumatized by even like revisiting that part of my memory bank to talk about all of that. But I feel a sense of catharsis. I feel as though I've got something off my chest by sharing this whole experience with you guys. So who wants to stay at the Birmingham Best Inn? Is that Salad Fingers on the TV behind you? It is Salad Fingers. It's going to turn itself off in a second. Salad Fingers is just like the cartoon version of Birmingham Best In. Have you heard of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared? If you like Salad Fingers, you like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. There's another one, I think it's by David Firth as well. Spoilsbury Toast Boy. They're all pretty damn disturbing. There's something else as well. Another comedy sketch called Brass Eye. That's not cartoon, that's like normal life, but it's basically like a Mickey take. It makes fun of basically all aspects of society. No, I have not. I'll put them in the chat, actually. If you like Salad Fingers, you'll like these ones. So that's one. That's another one. Spoilsbury Toast Boy. I mean, they're all deeply disturbing, but funny at the same time. Okay, guys, on that note, I will love yous and leave yous. It's past my bedtime. I've actually got a long drive tomorrow. I'm going to be driving for 6 hours, heading off to Yorkshire for strangely enough, a competition. But this is a strange competition. It's a virtual world championships, and I'm going to be having to film my performance and then submit it to some judges. And the location that I'm going to is actually a Celtic Druid temple. But yeah, I've got like a 6-hour drive ahead of me tomorrow, then coming back same day, so it's like 12 hours on the road. So I'm going to go and get some sleep. Brass Eye is legit one of the finest things I've ever seen. It is. Brass Eye is good. If you're going to take taxi, not of a price that taxis are these days. Good luck. Sounds awesome. Yeah. I said I'll take lots of pictures as well. I think it's just like performing at like this old Druid temple, this Celtic temple kind of thing. I've competed in some pretty strange places before: cruise ship, castles, haunted forests, which are haunted, more than Birmingham Best In. But this one would just be like a cool, unique experience. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah, worth doing it. Then I can officially retire. I've been wanting to retire for like the last 3 years, plus a few extra years on top of that. But I think this will just be a nice way to kind of go out. Guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sharing this horrible, horrible experience with me about the haunted hotel. Let me know when you do get down to Cornwall. Ben, I've been trying for a whole year. I'm going to keep trying. We're not going to give up. We've come so far in trying to get to Cornwall. It's become personal now. I will get there, but it's just, you know, frustration. But getting upset about it's not going to help anything. But yeah, I'll let you know for sure. Have an awesome evening, guys. Steve, Rob, if you're still there, have an awesome afternoon. Early evening in the States. Ben, enjoy your dinner if you haven't finished it already. Stay tuned, guys, and we will have another live stream soon about something just equally as wacky or insane. Stay safe, train hard, and keep watching Salad Fingers because it's the most disturbing cartoon you're ever going to find. And I'll see you all next time. Ciao for now.